This feud between Ben Shapiro and Tucker Carlson is so interesting because I tend to agree with Tucker Carlson on most of his conclusions, but what's so infuriating about it is that the way that he gets to his conclusions, it's just riddled with factual errors. That's why I wanted to kind of react to this video about Ben Shapiro. He's going to go through Tucker's messaging and say what's factually wrong with it. Now I know the specific tweet he's going to attack, and it's not a factually correct tweet in any sense. Then I'll respond to kind of Ben Shapiro's own messaging and what's wrong with that and why I end up falling on the side of Tucker's conclusions, at least.
It says he's demanding that American troops do it. We need to stop Iran from building nuclear weapons. He and like-minded ideologues in Washington are now arguing they're just weeks away. So first of all, that's not Mark and like-minded ideologues. That's Donald J. Trump. That is President Trump. We need to stop Iran from building nuclear weapons is a Donald J. Trump position. It has been a Donald J. Trump position for well over a...
Yeah, but I would separate Mark as someone who would prefer some kind of military action against Iran because he has zero trust in their government, as opposed to Donald Trump, who's kind of in the middle right now. He's leaving room for diplomacy, but in general, his White House messaging has been anti-war. So I don't think we're going to go to war with Iran. I think if Mark Levin was president, we would have a much higher chance of going to war with Iran, or at least bombing their nuclear facilities, which would likely result in a war. But Trump wants them. Trump doesn't want to go to war. Much less than Israel does. And Netanyahu's been trying to have that same kind of messaging that Mark is now kind of trying to lobby the government to fulfill. And Trump is resisting that. Now, I don't know which way he'll fall in the end, but to say that Trump is this Iran hawk who is excited to bomb their nuclear facilities, I don't think that's the case. I think he's kind of mentioned that it's not off the table because that's his negotiating style. As much as I hate his negotiating style, and it hasn't turned up anything economically as far as tariffs are concerned, that's what he does. So he's like, if you don't get into this deal with me, then we're going to bomb your nuclear facilities, and Israel's been pushing for that, as I mentioned. But yeah, I would say his characterization of Trump is kind of wrong here.
So if Tucker wants to argue with somebody on that, he should be arguing with the President of the United States. By the way, that also happens to be the stated position of the Vice President of the United States, the Secretary of State, and the Secretary of Defense. So if Tucker is in favor of the proposition that no one needs to stop Iran from building nuclear weapons, perhaps you should take it up.
No. Mark's position is that we should take some kind of military action. That's his position. Trump's position is it's still on the table, but we haven't committed to it yet. If they had committed to it, it would have already happened. Like if someone with Mark's ideology wasn't president, it would have already happened. So equivocating or making equal those two figures is not correct.
The administration. Quote, if this sounds familiar, it's because the same people have been making the same claim since at least the 1990s. It's a lie. In fact, there is zero credible intelligence that suggests Iran is anywhere near building a bomb or has plans to. None. So first of all,
That's Tucker's problem. He's just making stuff up. No, Iran is way closer to a nuclear weapon. There's good intelligence that they're above 60%, and that they could go to create a bomb in a week or two. Like, this is pretty much known. Our best intelligence says that since the JCPOA has been violated or thrown out by Trump, Iran has violated it significantly, going up above 3.67 into the 60s. And we've known that for a while. So the idea that they're still only enriching uranium to less than 4% for civilian purposes is absurd. It's just absurd. I've never heard that being touted anywhere, and I don't know where Tucker's getting that.
For what Tucker's intelligence capacities are. I mean, like, what is his access to this special intelligence of which we know no, he's ignorant or dishonest. So he has special knowledge. Or you're a liar, is I guess the two choices. If the U.S. government knew Iran was weeks from possessing a nuclear weapon, we'd be at war already. But I thought that we wouldn't be at war already, even if Iran was weeks from possessing a nuclear weapon, because we don't care.
Yeah, no, Ben is totally right here. Like, what is that line of reasoning? If Iran was weeks away from making a nuclear bomb, as I believe their capabilities currently, I believe that they can, we should absolutely not bomb Iran. And Tucker's taking the position that we should his fake intelligence be wrong, even though the real intelligence is corroborating what myself and Ben Shapiro have come to know, that they are quite close to a nuclear bomb. Now, the difference between me and Ben Shapiro, which we'll get to later in the video probably, is that I think Iran has been pretty clear it doesn't want to destabilize the entire Middle East. They're not idiots. I can expand upon that further as we go on.
Iran has a nuclear weapon, according to Tucker. By the way, people who say that Iran is developing a nuclear weapon and nuclear fuel and all that, that would be the IAEA, which literally came out last week and released two separate reports. One suggesting on Saturday, again, the IAEA is not a Zionist outlet, okay? The IAEA published Saturday that Iran has accumulated more than 400 kilograms of 60% enriched uranium. Civilian nuclear energy is like 3.67%. The only reason you're enriching to 60% is to get to a bomb. If enriched to 90%, such a quantity is enough for 10 nuclear bombs. A second IAEA report published Saturday made clear that Iran hasn't given satisfactory answers to IAEA investigations regarding several undeclared nuclear sites in the country. So, I mean, that's some evidence. I mean, that's not none. Beyond which, here are tweets from the Ayatollah Khamenei over the course of the last week. Quote, thanks to the intelligence of our youth and the dedication of our scientists, Iran has succeeded in achieving a complete nuclear fuel cycle. So today we're capable of producing nuclear fuel, starting from the mine and all the way to the power plant. Quote, thousands of nuclear scientists and researchers have been trained in Iran. Should we disappoint them?
Yeah, Ben Shapiro is using this militant quote from the Ayatollah leadership saying, oh my gosh, it's so horrible. We enriched uranium for civilian energy purposes? Like, there's nothing wrong with that. If the Ayatollah was coming out tweeting, like, threatening to bomb Israel or something, then I would catch more Ben's wavelength, but they're not. I don't think they want to destabilize the entire Middle East. That would have detrimental outcomes for the groups, for the proxies that they support throughout the Middle East. And I think many of those proxies are fundamentally bad. Bad for all the societies of the Middle East, and the kind of Abraham Accords contingency. But no, that tweet does not give you enough evidence to say like they're making a nuclear bomb for its use within the next week or month. Now, I don't think that they should have nuclear bombs, so it should be clear. That's why I think the JCPOA was a great agreement. Now, Ben Shapiro does not think that, because he wants an impossible deal. He wants a JCPOA where Iran is essentially demilitarized, and they're not funding any proxies, and they're not committing human rights abuses in Iran. And that's just a fantastical, unicorn land type deal that no one will ever get Iran to agree to, which is why the JCPOA was the best thing that we could have gotten. I'll expand on that later, of course, if he starts talking about it.
Make them unemployed and take away their hope in our country's future? The rude, insolent U.S. leaders want this. They're opposed to progress and self-sufficiency for the Iranian people. A few years ago, one of the U.S. presidents said he would dismantle the nuts and bolts of Iran's nuclear industry if he could. Of course, he admitted that he couldn't. Those in power today, the Zionists and the Americans, should know they can't do a damn thing in this area. So who's talking about nuclear power? The Ayatollahs, the IAEA, literally everyone. So that's not no evidence. That seems like fairly solid evidence, actually, publicly stated evidence. And that's not even getting in.
They're just publicly stating they're using they're using nuclear energy for civilian purposes. They're not publicly saying that we have a nuclear bomb and we're going to use it next week. There's a big difference there.